Hi, I'm Margaret and welcome to the Great Wax and Wax Open Forum. My guest today is Mr. ALVIN Brunson with the Center for Cultural Education.
Sam Cooke or Marvin Gaye.
Okay.
Just the sound of the men
I'm not getting it. That's
working on the chain.
All right, but
Yeah.
remember not to move around too much because the mic is actually on your tie.
Okay.
The real mic's on your tie. Move it up.
Moving up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm getting this. I can hear something. So you say, hey, 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 into the mic on your tie.
Hey, hey, hey.
All right, so let's go for it. Now
Hey,
you're going to give
okay.
us a... All right.
My name is ALVIN Brunson. I'm with the Center for Cultural Education. The Center for Cultural Education operates an African American traveling museum that spotlights and highlights significant contributions that African Americans have made in the city of Baltimore, the state of Maryland, and the nation. We have over 40 exhibits that we actually travel with. We go to colleges, schools, churches, senior centers, nursing homes, outreach centers, after-school programs, prisons.
You know what? Let me cut you. You know why?
Cultural Education's mission is to educate people of all races and ages about Baltimore's black history and culture. And we do that through an array of cultural exhibits that we travel with. We're at the Great Black Museum, and I actually bought 4 exhibits that I want to talk about briefly. This exhibit that I'm pointing to is an exhibit that we do to highlight African American restaurant businesses in Baltimore. Baltimore has a slew of African American restaurants. For example, the Yellow Bowl is the oldest African American restaurant in Baltimore. It opened in 1968. And we also have Micah's, which is on Ricestown Road in the 5100 block of Ricestown Road. We have Shug's Restaurant, which is in the 2500 block of Greenmount Avenue. We also have 4 restaurants that recently closed within the last 2 years. Sidney DeMars, which opened in 2002, they're now closed. They were located at 1613 East North Avenue. The restaurant over in Cherry Hill, Cajun Blue, they closed last year. Very elegant, black-owned and operated restaurant. And then we had Downtown Southern Blues that recently closed, which was on Howard Street at Reed Street. And we had Mackenzie's restaurant, which was black-owned and operated, and it was located on South Caton Avenue. But this is just an exhibit that we do to highlight the importance, the significance in supporting black-owned restaurants and black-owned businesses in general, because if we don't support our restaurants and if we don't support black businesses, then they go out of business. And we can't blame anybody but ourselves. This exhibit is an exhibit, I'm going to lift it up. This is an exhibit that we do that highlights and spotlights some of Baltimore's African-American actors and actresses. Baltimore, over the last 50 years, there are quite a few actresses and actors that have come out of Baltimore. This is a picture of a forgotten actress by the name of Tamara Dobson. She played in a lot of the black exploitation movies back in the 1970s, late 70s, 77, 78. This particular movie was called Cleopatra Jones. I get asked all the time, well, whatever happened to Tamara? She is still living in Baltimore City. She lives right over by the Rotunda. She's not into acting anymore. This is a picture of Howard Rawlings Jr. And Howard Rawlings starred in numerous movies as well as television. Some of his well-known movies was A Soldier Story, as well as Ragtime. And I'm missing one. I can't think of it, but he was also on television in The Heat of the Night.
Yep,
Okay,
that was it.
right. That was a real nice movie. Howard passed away a couple of years ago, and he was a great actor. Charles S. Dutton. Charles Dutton is from Baltimore, grew up East Baltimore. Spent 9 years in prison, studied acting while he was incarcerated, and once he got out of prison, he still pursued acting. He got a scholarship to Harvard, and since leaving Harvard, he's gone on to do great things. He's done Broadway, he's done film, he's done television, he's produced, he's directed, he's acted. He's a very talented actor, and I like telling this story because I always tell kids, especially when I go to schools, that it's not how you start out in life, it's how you finish. Here's a man that did 9 years in prison and turned his life around, did a 180. So I enjoy telling his story. Jada Pinkett Smith is from Baltimore. She attended the School for the Performing Arts. She's married to a well-known actor by the name of Will Smith, who has a new movie that just started recently. But Jada Pinkett Smith is a Baltimore standout in that she did great things while she was here. She was at the School for the Performing Arts, and she's one individual that I know gives back to the Baltimore community. She just had a birthday last month, by the way. She celebrated her 31st birthday, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's actress, comedian, Monique. Did I say that wrong, Margaret? Oh, okay. Should I say comedian, actress, Monique? I want to make sure I get that right. She actually grew up in Baltimore, and she used to have a comedy club downtown Baltimore on Liberty Street called Monique's, right? And she went on to do great things. Now you can see her just about every night on cable TV. She does a show called The Parkers, if I'm not mistaken, and she also hosts The Apollo. Thank you. Okay. Excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
Around the chair. Yep.
okay. Sorry about that. I didn't know we were.
Don't fall off the stage.
I didn't know we were.
No. All right.
I didn't know we were hooked up to that. Oh, okay.
All right, and here we go.
This is an exhibit that where we highlight some of Baltimore's musical artists, African American musical artists. Living musical artists we have out of Baltimore. We have Drew Hill, and they came out around, I believe, 1996. And there's also a group by the name of Rough Ends that came out of Baltimore, and it's a young guy, teenager named Mario, who came out of Baltimore. But this exhibit just talks about some of Baltimore's rich musical heritage. Tupac Shakur is well known. He's not from Baltimore, but he attended the School for the Performing Arts here in Baltimore. And I was also told, I haven't verified it, but I was told that he went to Dunbar briefly before he attended the School for the Performing Arts, maybe for about 6 or 7 weeks. We all know who Billie Holiday was, great jazz singer from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And there is a monument in her honor in the 1300 block of Pennsylvania Avenue. There's also a stamp, Black Heritage stamp in her honor. So we like to tell Billie Holiday's story. Some of you may be familiar with the group out of Baltimore called the Soft Tones. They've been around since the late 60s, and they're still performing today. And then there's Jimmy Briscoe and the Little Beavers. Some of you may remember Jimmy Briscoe and the Little Beavers, who were out in the late 70s, I would say the mid 70s. Most of the guys went to Southwestern High School. And then there's Granger out of Cherry Hill. Granger started out as Pockets, a group called Pockets, back in the early 80s. And they have branched off and they've gone on to do great things. But Baltimore has a very rich musical heritage. Over 40 artists have come out of Baltimore that have recorded music. And Al Center exclusively has music by just about every artist that have come out of Baltimore.
I'll go catch it.
Okay.
Can I get you to stay on the other side of the tree?
Oh, okay.
Because you're not getting the best lighting, I don't think. Okay.
Now I'm going to lift this one up,
Okay.
and this is it.
You okay?
Yeah. Okay, and lastly, this is an exhibit that we use to highlight some of Baltimore's sports legends. Some of you may remember a guy by the name of Ernest Graham, who came out of East Baltimore. He played for the University of Maryland. He went on to play pro ball for a couple of years. This guy here, Carmelo Anthony, he's one of the members of the Denver Nuggets basketball team, came out of Baltimore. A gentleman who gets the credit for being the shortest person to ever play in the NBA, Tyrone Muggsy Bogues, out of East Baltimore. His height was 5 feet 3, and he played in the NBA for 14 years. And he said, quote, "Playing basketball is not based on your height, it's based on your talent." And he played for 14 years in the NBA. And then you have a guy that's doing great things in the NBA now, a brother by the name of Sam Cassell, who plays for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Sam is doing great things. And a few years ago, we had a gentleman out of Baltimore who played for the San Antonio Spurs. His name was Reggie Williams. And Reggie has since retired, and he's still doing great things. And lastly, Keith Booth. Keith Booth played for the World Championship Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan. And he also attended the University of Maryland, and he's doing great things. So again, we have 40 exhibits that we travel with, but I wanted to bring at least 4 of them to the Great Black and Wax Museum for the open forum. So thank you. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Loretta. And thank you for having me to be a part of the program today. Thank you. That was...
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Bang.
Bang, okay.
Okay, if you'd like to be a guest on our show, call the number that you see on the screen. We're here the first Monday of every month at the Great Blacks and Wax. We're located at 1601 East North Avenue. And thank you. Okay, and as Alvin Brunson, my guest, had previously said, we like to promote the Spend 10, so we would like you to spend 10 here at the Great Blacks and Wax. We have gifts from all over the country. We have things that you can use for gifts or souvenirs. So join us. Well, folks, welcome back. We're here with Mama Deborah and her children, David and Mary. We're going to focus on you for a moment, David. Tell us how did you get inspired to become a storyteller?
Well, just like my mom told you earlier, I had a little moment of moxie, and I told my story in front of Mama Mary at the little impromptu celebration. It was the unveiling of Colin Powell's statue a couple years ago when I was a lot younger, a lot smaller. Yeah, I had a little moment of moxie. I told my story. I think she actually came to me after it was over, and she commended me on my story. Listened to her weekly radio station the next week. She actually mentioned me. I was real ecstatic about that. And then she invited me to be on her show either the next week or a few weeks later after that. And I read a story, and after a while I started telling stories. And even that, she allowed me to be in performances with her. I think the first performance that I did was at the top of the World Trade Center downtown. I actually did the same story with her at the top of the World Trade Center, so I always remember that. And it kind of has been a good snowball effect from there. I've been doing a lot of performances. I'm always busy telling stories and drumming and just doing a lot of things. So I owe it all to Mama Mary for giving me the opportunity.
I can understand that. Do you also write any of your own stories?
I don't write my own stories, but I like to add my own style to them. I take a story, I tell it a few times, and then I add my own little creativity. I like to add a lot of movement to my stories. When I want to be, I can be very active. So when I get comfortable with a story, sometimes it takes a while depending on the length or the importance or the depth of the story. When I get comfortable with it, I add my own flavor to it, and truly make it mine. That's what storytellers do. They take stories, or they make their own stories, or take stories and truly make it theirs. It's never the same when you tell it. You never tell the same story twice, even if it is the same story.
Exactly, I understand. You in school?
Yeah, I'm in school. I'm a senior at French School of Baltimore.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. That's where Mama sitting over there all school. Really proud of you. So you tell stories around, how do your friends feel about you?
They make it cool. I've told the stories in front of the high school last year. They all enjoyed it. They all gave me a lot of props for it. They really enjoyed what I do. They especially love when I drum. They always ask me if I want to drum.
Yeah, you really do.
At assemblies and things like that. I do. I enjoy it. I like sharing my time. I like letting people know what I do. And what I spend all my time and why I'm not never around to go to parties and stuff.
So Mary, what makes you get involved as well as the story? And by the way, you are a great storyteller.
Thank you. I really got involved from my brother. He's an influence, and when he was on the show, Mary Carter Smith kind of asked me to be on it, and I was really excited because I really liked her show also, and I liked being on it. So I really kind of followed in the footsteps of my brother, and when he started telling, I was on telling, I started that. So I guess really my big brother.
I mean, that's good to hear that amongst our people, that you have a brother that you can aspire to. A big brother doing his job. You in school as well?
Yes.
I mean, of course you're in school. I'm right. That was a dumb question. What school do you go to?
I go to French School of Baltimore.
Oh, as well.
I'm
Smart kids.
a freshman at French School of Baltimore.
And how do your friends feel about your
They really like it. I told, actually when I was in the 6th grade during our camping trip, we couldn't go outside, so they asked me to tell a story, and I was preparing for a show and I told a story, and my friends, they really enjoyed it, and they said they really liked it, and so I tell them stories whenever they ask me if I can tell them a story, and I always do, and I also performed last year. I did a dance performance with my story Day Inca B, and they really enjoyed it. All my teachers enjoyed it also. So they really liked my storytelling.
That's wonderful. Your little circle of friends, have you all thought about starting a little circle of your own for the younger ones, I mean?
Not really.
No, that
I mean,
really
it's
hasn't
not
come to mind.
good. No?
Hasn't really come to mind yet, yeah.
I guess because you're kind of overwhelmed with what you're doing already. Because I would love to see this, manifest into something like that.
Yeah, well, part of the Griot Circle, of course, is designed to bring other young kids into storytelling. Working on a program to try to set them up, because the one thing about it is kind of time consuming, and you have to make sure that they do it, and it's all based in reading. Okay, all that they do is based in reading. So we did, like I said before, several shows this summer for the Pratt Library, emphasizing the importance of reading because it's very vital to what it is that they do. So as a parent of Griot children, it's time consuming, and you have to be dedicated to doing it. Yeah.
You have aspirations for anything beyond storytelling? I'm just saying that because I'm an actress myself, and I'm a poet and a writer, and I see something in you that goes far beyond what you're doing.
I also sing. I sing with my mother, and I sing at school in the choir and stuff. And that's really what I've done all my life. Besides everything else, I really enjoy singing. And then I dance, and then I do storytelling, so I do a lot. And I combine them all. So yeah.
And keep good grades as well.
Yes.
You are
That's number one.
Of course. Something together.
Because she sings, I sing.
Okay.
In fact, her presentation that she's working on for the that she'll do in New Orleans is based mostly in song.
Okay.
So she's doing several parts of spirituals with some narrative and that kind of stuff.
Oh, so can we cheat a little bit?
Yeah, if you want to do
give
the
us a little
first
bit
part,
of
you
what
do the first part of what you're going to do in Wichita, and then I'll sing the Strange Fruit. The first, start with the Quincy Jones and do the spirituals. Okay.
The true history of the kidnapped Africans in America is not to be found in the history books. It is to quote Quincy Jones in our music. Music has influenced generations of Africans in America as we struggle to become whole. At the times when we were sold like animals, not given enough food, and beaten, we secretly sang, "No more auction block for me, no more, no more, no more auction block for me, many thousand gone, no more peck of corn for me, no more, no more, no more peck of corn for me, many thousand gone."
Well, Mama Deborah, I want to thank you for joining me today and bringing your beautiful children. I've really been inspired by them. I want to do something with my grands. And I look forward to seeing you again in the future, and I wish you all the best in New Orleans. I know we're going to be hearing about you from there. And audience, I want to thank you for joining us today. And if you want to be a guest or be a member of our audience here at the Great Blacks in Wax Open Forum, you can contact us at this number you see on your screen. Thank you for joining us. Okay, we're going to cover a lot in the future. We're going to talk about politics in our communities and what we need to do to promote that, voting. We're going to talk about the arts and entertainment, African American culture. With the holidays coming up, we have Kwanzaa coming, and Christmas and the like. So we'll look forward to seeing you again in the future. Bye, and thank you all for joining. And we'll see you again soon. Thank you for joining us. And if you would like to be a guest on the Great Blacks in Wax Open Forum, call the number at the bottom of the screen. Join us. If you have an interesting anecdote to share with us, or if you have something you want to promote from your community, just give us a call.